It's late spring and the bite is getting hot. The bass are busting shad, the trout and redfish are crushing shrimp, and the oil rigs are producing too. Anglers, it's time to grab your fishing gear and get to the water. Our experts are about to put you on the bite here on the Texas Insider Fishing Report, which starts right now.
Welcome to the Texas Insider Fishing Report. Presented by Yamaha.
Welcome back to our show, and I want to welcome back Captain Jim Ross, who is filling in for Rick this week. Jim, thank you so much for co-hosting with me again for this special Mother's Day weekend ahead of us.
I'll tell you, this is a great weekend. My mom gets seasick like crazy, but I still get her on the boat.
Good.
We still get around inshore, and we have a good time, and she loves it. So
Good.
I'm looking forward to it.
Good for Mama. Get her back out there. All right, before we get to our reports, let's say hi to our workbench wonder over yonder. Hello, Dave.
How you doing?
How you doing?
I'm good.
What you got over there, friends?
Well, we got some really cool stuff. We're going to be talking about Sheephead today, and I got some really cool products. I got a cool wading vest I'm going to show you.
Ooh, can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
Saw a preview of it earlier. All right, I hope you've sharpened your topwater skills if the Upper Fresh region is on your fishing destination list this weekend, because Mike McFarland is ready to put us on the big ones. Go for it, Mike.
Hey, Brie. Hey, Jim. Good to have you here, sir. Let's start with Lake Possum Kingdom and my good friend Pete Hernandez. Guide Pete Hernandez says the fishing is good. Water temperatures are 66 to 68 by the dam with, believe it or not, 12 foot of visibility. In the mid-lake Broadway area, it's 67 to 70 degrees with 2 foot visibility. Big difference there. But basically, shallow and medium diving crankbaits are best bet for the post-spawn fish. Pete says there will be a few more spawning rounds of fish he expects for the next moon, but other than that, it's full post-spawn. Lake Lavon bass fishing with Terry Thorne. Good there, 1 to 20 foot. This time of year, you can still find a few spawning fish on the beds, but most are also post-spawn and moving to deeper water. In the morning, start out with white and chartreuse spinnerbaits around shad spawn areas. And note, with a good cloud-covered day, that bite can continue all day. But otherwise, once the spinnerbait bite slows down, switch to deeper diving crankbaits and look for those fish to be in about 15 to 20 feet. You can also use fish structure with A rigs, Alabama rigs, swim baits, and Carolina rigs. My home lake, Lake Fork, it's fair to really good. It's kind of a hit and miss. It's either really, really awesome. Lake levels are 402, which is 1 foot below full pool, 68, 74 degree water temp. The shad spawn's really firing up, so does the topwater bite. That's what's hit and miss. The buzz baits, the buzz style frogs used around duckweed and shallow vegetation in the backwaters and the north end of the lake are working well, but it's a day-to-day bite. In the main lake, you can find blue herons and white egrets that are feeding on the shad on the points and on shorelines. Top waters like Berkeley Bullet Pop, the Berkeley Jaywalker, those baits in shad colors. I like bone white, but any shad color is the ticket. You can also use albino-colored bass assassins fished weightless in those same areas, and they can be very effective when the fish doesn't want to take the surface. This bite should actually get better and continue for the next couple of weeks. Here's a couple of really beautiful fish, largemouth bass that we call Lake Fork Specials.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
That's a nice
Sure
chunk
is
in there.
special.
Yeah, those are specials. Those are very common fish. Let's move on to crappie. Crappie fishing on Possum Kingdom is good. Crappie pretty much done spawning, but you can find a few late spawners. Fish are suspended there at 12 to 20 feet near the mouths of the main creeks. Light crappie jigs are still favorite, but minnows and the live shad work well too. Lake Lavon with Kerry Thorne. He says it's still a week or two left of the spawn. You can find them super shallow in 1 to 3 feet of water near the submerged grass or button willows. And you can also go deep for the post spawn at 10 to 20 feet of structure. Generally, you're seeing them about 12 to 14 feet. Lake Fork, my favorite home lake again, with one of my favorite guides ever, Jackie Wiggins. He says the crappie fishing is excellent. They're filling limits every day. Crappie fish are moving. The crappie are moving out in post-spawn summer patterns. The black crappie have really been finishing up the spawn and completely moved out to the trees, brush, ridges, and laydowns. They will be there for a few months, a good few months. White crappie are also scattered out there, and as they finish spawning. Look for the brush laydowns and stuff in 12 to 25 feet, 14 to 20 feet for the trees, and 18 to 32 foot of water is your best concentrations of fish. Small hand-tied jigs are really the dominating on bait on Jackie's boat, but minnows also always produce well, and they're still taking soft plastics. Here's a nice day with the limit with Jackie.
Wow, that's what I'm talking about. Some slabs.
Fun day.
That's some good eating.
Good
eating
stuff.
right there. For sure.
Tell us a little
All
bit
right,
about the
next
striper bite now.
Yeah, next species. White bass is good on Lake Levant. I kind of want to move quick. It's the same thing. We're seeing the bait pushing into the backs of the coves, kind of shad spawn. So look for the diving birds, white egrets, blue herons. But you can definitely clean up on the white bass in Levant. And I really want to fit in Tawakoni again. Matt Cartwright continues week after week to catch these big, huge hybrids and stripers. He says the water's 69 degrees in the main lake. Stripers, hybrids, and white bass are schooling on the main lakes. Mornings, evenings are best. 4-inch swim baits on riprap. That's your best bite right there. And here's a couple of those great big fish from Matt Cartwright.
Holy cow.
Wow, Matt. Killing it again.
Putting together
Killing it. And
nice
if
bite.
I got time, I could give you a little catfish report. Otherwise, we're pretty good.
Let's hear it.
Catfish on Levant is good. Channel catfish are starting the annual spawn, 1 to 5 foot of water in the riprap and submerged brush. And then catfish on Tawakoni, they're still on the banks and grass off the main lake points, cut shad, and Bubba's stink baits.
And Bubba's stink baits, huh? Gotta love it.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm so grateful to be able to do this with you.
I tell you what, Mike, thanks for the report, and we're going to go to the hot spots for the upper fresh region. Captain Mike says Lake Fork is offering awesome topwater action for trophy-sized largemouth. The Berkeley Bullet Pop and the Berkeley Jaywalker used around shad spawn areas are catching some great fish for him right now. Buzz baits and buzz-style frogs are catching some of the bigger fish up in the northern end of the lake, and both east and west arms right now. And you want to look for areas that have duckweed vegetation because that seems to be a good place to find those fish concentrated right now.
Exactly. And don't forget about Bubba.
Don't forget about
Don't forget about Bubba. All right, we're staying in the upper fresh region because coming up June 8th through 11th is everyone's favorite Lake Fork event, the Skeeter Owners Tournament. If you're catching big bass, you're winning big. And this year, not only one boat will be given away, but two, an FXR Apex anniversary boat for the largest over and a ZX 150 for the largest under. This individual tournament is limited to 3 anglers per boat with a ladies and junior division as well. To get more information on how to register, head to skeeterboats.com.
You know, Skeeter Boats has been in business for 75 years building bass boats.
They must be good.
It's amazing. Let's go to the
That
next.
is amazing. To be around that long, that's awesome. All right, our Fish Bites Lower Coast region is blessing us with all sorts of species this weekend. So let's get Captain Chad Kinney on the line to tell us where to go and what to do. Go for it, Chad.
I'll get to that. First of all, though, happy Mother's Day this weekend, everybody. Hopefully you take your special person out on the water. I know I'll be out there. I'll be fishing shallow sport tournament with Big Mama and some friends. So moving into Inshore there. Heading out of South Padre, the long bar has been really, really good on that trout bite out there. And if you're looking for some redfish, best place I've been talking to people kind of all over, actually head to Baffin Bay. Baffin Bay's been really good on some of those oversized fish and some of the slot fish off the rocks there. But talking about the trout bite, has been great kind of all through the lower coast. We've been talking about it for a couple of weeks, but it's been really good. And the best thing right now is what's working is a live croaker. Oh, the long bar out there, South Padre Island. Reason croaker's working really, really good right now. There's a big number of them in the bay system, and the shrimp were there 3-4 weeks ago. Those guys have moved out, so the croaker kind of moved in, and those fish are going to be feeding on, what's available to them. We've got a couple of shrimp boats out of the marina down here, and I can see it firsthand what's moving in and out. So if you're going to live bait, kind of switch from the shrimp to the croaker. So the baits right now, the croaker, they're going to be smaller this time of year because they're just starting to get off. So I'd use an Eagle Claw Kale hook, like a 5-aught hook, and just free line it, hit the edge of that bar there on the long bar, work straight. Power poles really help you out working on this on the edges. You can keep your right solid in place, especially if you have 2 of them. The boat won't even swing on you. You can fish those edges really good. If the fish are out deeper in the middle of those guts, then utilize your Rodan trolling motor. Get out there in the middle where you can still just get in casting distance to the edge of those corners and the weed lines, and then hit your anchor button on that thing. Keep you right in place. So you got best of both worlds on that stuff. Remember, it's 3 per person in the lower coast here, 17 to 23 inch is a slot size. So just take what you guys can take for dinner and stuff and have some fun with the rest of it. Moving on to redfish. The Baffin Bay report I had was really, really good. They're fishing off the edges there and the rocks there. There's lots of ways, different approach. I've been talking to a few captains up there, and they're using live shrimp with a popping cork, the free line and the croaker. Croaker actually do work really well on those redfish. If you're using some lures, top water, mirror lure, It works really good early off the tops of those, in the edges of those rocks. Also, saltwater assassin. If you're starting to work the bottom, bounce that saltwater assassin, sea shad down off the bottom there and work the bottom there wherever the redfish are feeding at. Be patient on this one because there's going to be some big schools that move through there. There's some big oversized hanging around, also with some slot sizes in the mix also. So it's been a good spot up there for doing that. Moving offshore, state water snapper bites kind of turned back on again on the North Rocks out of Port Mansfield from 40 to 90 foot in that depth range. Out deeper, try to find some sorghum floating. We've been talking about that a couple of weeks ago for some Dorado. Dorado's still out there kind of feeding on there. It's a sign of a good start for the offshore. The state water snapper fishing, it's really hard to beat as far as action, and table fare. And like I said, head north out of Port Mansfield. We got lots of structure here. Lick fish on the bottom for suspended fish on the bottom. Fish bites attached to an eagle claw trocar jig's working really good. You work the bottom or the middle of the water column, kind of see where these fish are located at. The winds and seas should be subsiding soon. When that does, it's going to bring the blue water in closer, which makes it even perfect timing when it comes down to get your Shallow Sport X3, which I just got my new one in this week. You can run out to the snapper banks really easy and farther to get in the action there. Moving out deeper, talking about Dorado, they've been showing up so scattered around any floating debris. So look for any rips and weed lines or any floating debris out there. Those fish are going to be targeting that bait that's attached to those things moving around. So target those areas. Put 3 to 5 lines out. I like using 3 because I can move around faster, but 3 to 5 lines with small islanders rigged up works really good. Ballyhoo attached to them also helps out, or you can make a daisy chain. I talked about a couple weeks ago. Put 3 on there with the hook at the very back end, and that works excellent for targeting these Dorado. Control those lures at like 7.5, 8 knots for the best speed to get the bite, and you'll have a great show. I mean, beautiful fish and good eating, and it's all the best way around. We got a picture here of a nice Dorado there caught out of Real Rush Charters. Quebec sending a picture in out of Matagorda.
That's fantastic. Thanks,
Congrats.
Chad. Great report. Great tip on don't run too many lines as well. So here's the Shallow Sports Boats hot spots for the Lower Coast region. Captain Chad says the trout bite out of South Padre Island is really good along the bars and guts that run through it. Redfish are good in Baffin Bay on the edges of the rocks. And then offshore, the water's warming up, and the state water snapper bite has been good, with a few Dorados still showing up around the weed lines, and
I'd say so.
that's a good mix of fish, Brie.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, you can't complain at all. That's just good
Well,
stuff.
she wasn't complaining at all. That's for sure. That was a beautiful
That was
fish
a
she had.
beautiful fish.
Yeah. All right, we're casting into the Star-Tron Middle Fresh region next. But first, Dave Farrell has some work to do over at the workbench for Rigs and Techniques with his sheepy friend over there.
Yeah, I do have a sheepy friend, and we're going to be talking about catching one of the best eating fish there is in inshore waters. I think he's better than a flounder. personally.
Fighting words? Maybe?
Fighting
Not sure.
hard,
What do you
too.
think?
Yeah. Oh, they fight hard as well.
Okay, we'll be back.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Ameritrail. Load, launch, relax. Fenwick. Feel everything. Bahio Sunglasses. Blue light blocking. Radically clear lenses. Sportsman's Adventures with Captain Rick Murphy. Fishing for adventure. Berkeley. Your fish, our science. And Skeeter Performance Fishing Boats. Eat, sleep, fish.
Well, Dave, we're here at the Rigs and Techniques bench, and
Yeah.
sheephead, like you said, is tonight's species. Now, there's a lot of specific things that you can do to get these fish to bite rather than just come up and look and turn away.
Right. Well, it's not the most sought after fish. A lot of times it's like the red-headed stepchild
a lot of times
the
they're
inshore
bycatch
fish.
almost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I like them. I like to target them. I like to catch them, and I like to eat them because they're really, really good to eat. I mean, he's a buzzsaw all around. He's got fins everywhere and sharp pieces on him everywhere. He's hard to clean. Giant scales. There's a lot to him that he's a pain in the butt. But when you get those fillets, you're going, he's worth it.
Once you get through that tough outer coat, you get to that nice white meat inside.
It's worth it. And in the wintertime is when they, we're at the tail end of their season right now. Chad was talking about him last week. That's why I wanted to talk about him. I wasn't here. But you can still catch them right now. You can catch them all year round.
Well, with these late
between
cold
February
fronts.
and March, exactly.
Yeah.
Between February and March is when they really gang up in big piles in that spawning aggregation. They get very aggressive and eat and eat and eat. You can find a spot and catch 20 or 30 in a good spot. Yep. And what you're wanting to do, they're called a sheephead. People always ask, why are they called a sheephead? Because their teeth, they have human-like teeth. They have giant horse-like teeth. I mean, they got round crushers behind them, but the ones in the front are gnarly looking.
They look like they came straight out of a sheep.
And they're that way because they eat all the crustaceans. They eat all the hard stuff. Crabs, barnacles, sand fleas, shrimp, everything with a shell, oysters even.
Well, those front teeth can pick in between the barnacles and oysters and grab and
little stuff out.
And then pull to get to those molars in the back to crush.
Right. And, me and the convict fish have a lot in common. We both have never met a crustacean that they didn't like.
Well, that's
I love to eat them, and they do too.
They do too.
So that's why we're going to use them for bait. Yeah. You really can't. You can catch these on a lure every once in a while. You can catch them on fish bites all the time. Mm-hmm. That's the only artificial I would ever use to target them with. Yeah. But every once in a while you'll get lucky and catch one on a jig or something.
Let's talk about some rigs that we need to use.
Okay. Well, we're going to be using. Any of these rigs that we use, we're going to be using a fiddler crab or a hermit crab or a shrimp or a clam or a sand flea.
Yep,
sand fleas, they love sand fleas, which is not a lot of people know. But when we're going to use one of these rigs, we're talking about a rig that'll try to keep as much weight on the rig and the hook as possible, so that when this is in the water column and this is on the bottom, I can feel anything that happens. I want to keep my line tight, and I can feel anything that happens on this little tag. Sometimes I'll shorten this tag to be really, really small because I want it closer to this main line, because if I have too much of this, he can swim around with it and maybe not, I won't feel it maybe. But if it's closer, I have a much better chance of feeling that little
And this
tug.
would be more of a still water rig next to some pilings or rocks?
And if you're in deeper, heavier current, you can use the same kind of rig. It's a single dropper with a heavier weight. And I like to use these cone weights, these worm weights, because a lot of times I can drop these into some really nasty bottom and get them in and out quick. You can also use the ones with a little swivel on the top, swivel top weight, a bank weight sometimes.
Well, this is an interesting rig that you made here, and the reason I like this is you just tied a little loop in the bottom of it.
Right.
It's not actually tied.
Right.
It just has a very, very tiny loop with a knot.
So if that gets down in the crap, and I want to get my rig back,
you can just pop it right out, and then you drop the weight and you get your entire rig back without having to re-rig the whole rig. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it works good because you're going to be fishing around bridges and jetties and hard, rocky stuff. And as soon as one of these big, broad-sided fish gets on, they're going to head for the.
Now, what about a guy who's fishing over the top of some oysters or some rocks that are partially submerged?
Well,
because you've got a float rig.
Well, Chad was talking last week about how they're catching a lot of them around the pilings and stuff around the intercoastal waterways and marinas and stuff like that. Where there's a lot of pilings, there's going to be a lot of sheephead because they're after those barnacles and shrimp and stuff.
Exactly.
And so you can use a fish bites on a popping cork. It stays, it doesn't go all the way to the bottom, but it stays in the, and that's the way it is with everywhere you fish them. You start on the bottom and then you work your way to the top.
Because they will suspend.
Yes, and once you find where you're getting the bites, try to mark that depth and try to keep hitting that same depth over and over again, and you'll catch more than one.
Great tips.
Just remember this little jewel too, this little jig head, because they're really crushing them with crabs on these jig heads on the bottom.
Gotcha. Well, all great rigs. I'll tell you what, let's go find out where we can go use them next, Brie.
Great, gentlemen. I learned a lot as well. All right, the Startron Middle Fresh region has a lot going on, especially on OH Ivy, Richland Chambers, and Toledo Bend. So let's see what we're catching with Matt Losher for the Mamas this weekend. Go for it, Matt.
All right, Brie, we're going to do it. Starting at OH Ivy this week with the largemouth bass. Ivy has been a little bit on the stingy side with giving up those big fish this year. It seems like there's a lot of them coming out of there, and there is, but it's not easy. That lake's gotten a lot of pressure, but I tell you what, among all that pressure, it's still incredible how it just keeps producing those big fish. And we're gonna talk about kind of how to get them this week. There was some giants caught still spawning there this past week, but Jared Poole with Hill Country Hammer Guides and Outfitters tells me that the spawn is definitely winding down there. They're seeing less and less of them. He says that the big glide baits and the deep diving crankbaits in about 15 to 20 feet of water have been very productive for them recently. And he dropped us a photo of another giant again this week. Got a photo there of Mr. Larry Wilson, and that's a 13.07 pound mega giant bass once again. So if you're in it for a giant, Ivy is just really hard to beat right now. They're not easy to catch, but they're definitely in there, and there's you some proof.
Wow.
I love
Now
that.
we're going to move over to Richland Chambers. Got a lot of big fish news coming out of that lake as well. Mr. Thurman Selman with Fastest Specialty Guide Service up there tells me that it took 31 pounds to win a couples tournament there recently. So I bet that was a happy couple that day, catching all those big ones. And then right after that, a Texas Team Trail tournament took over 30 pounds to win as well. Wow. So lots of big fish coming out of Richland Chambers too. And he says that most of these big fish are coming from very shallow spawning areas. And they've mostly still been pre-spawn fish. However, he suspects that by this weekend, a lot of those fish could have spawned out, and so kind of be in that post-spawn phase because, we just came out the full moon. So I'm sure a lot of those fish that were caught that last weekend may have already laid their eggs at this point because it happened so fast. So just be aware that there could be fish still pre-spawn, some spawning, and then definitely some post-spawners as well. And he says that, just focus on those shallow spawning areas with that Bass Assassin finesse worm. He likes that little tapper in the bluegill color. Now moving over to down here to Sam Rayburn and Toledo Bend, I'm going to kind of lump these two lakes together this week because, they're pretty close by each other and the patterns are just very similar right now. So just for sake of time, I'm going to kind of lump them together. Both these lakes are still in a situation where it seems like you can catch fish every way possible. There are still some fish around the cypress trees and the grass up shallow and the bushes and all that, but there's also some offshore patterns beginning to work. The problem, though, is that the fish just aren't schooled up everywhere offshore just yet, so there's still a lot of them lingering up shallow, so there's just not a lot of fish really wadded up in any one place. There's certain key areas that are hitting and then others that are not. So you just got to keep moving around a lot and just go fish your strengths on these two lakes right now. You can go shallow or deep right now and have an excellent day with either pattern. Frogs have been putting out a lot of big fish, and the offshore Carolina rig bite has been producing really well as well. So just do what you like to do and stick with it and keep moving until you find them on those two.
Well, Matt, tell us a little bit about the crappie.
Going to talk about the crappie to round out here this week. And Toledo Bend's going to be the hot lake this week for the crappie. The crappie are a little bit ahead of the bass. They seem like they're moving on out a little bit faster. So they're kind of ganging up offshore a little more. Those fish are hanging out about 15 to 25 feet of water around the timber and the bridge pilings. And they're biting jigs the best right now. My best bait this week has definitely been the Panfish Assassin Tiny Shad in the monkey milk color. And minnows are working some as well. They'll always bite a minnow, but, man, they just really like the swimming motion of that jig right now. Pulling it through those schools of fish has definitely been better than the minnow. I've never understood why they prefer a piece of plastic over a live minnow, but some days they sure do. And to end it today, this week, guys, we've got a photo there to kind of show you what we've been catching. That's Mr. Steve and Scott that fished with me this week, and they caught a nice mess of slab crappie there.
That'll work, that's for sure.
I'll take it.
Man, thanks a lot for that report, Matt. Here's the Rodan Marine Systems hotspots for the Middle Fresh region. Capt Matt says that you need to get out there on Ivy. It's still putting some giants out there, as we saw that one nice picture. There's a few fish still spawning. Richland Chambers has some big fish very shallow, and they're spawning as well. And Toledo Bend and Sam Rayburn are in transition patterns right now, but fish are being caught both shallow and deep. So like you said, fish your strengths. Crappie are beginning to stack up on Toledo Bend as well. So if you can't catch the bass, go catch you some crappie.
Heck yeah. For the mamas this weekend, go get her some good finger licking eats.
Yeah, something to drop in that grease.
Exactly. All right, we're getting ready to check out what's swimming around in the Front Runner Boats Upper Coast region when we come back, so stay hooked. But you know what? Take a look at the QR code on your screen and scan away to gain easy access to all of our social media outlets. Like and follow our Instagram and Facebook pages, and to see all new exclusive fishing adventures, tips, and reports, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Captain Rick Murphy. We'll be right back.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin, the best lures, period. Berkeley, your fish, our science. Murphy's Law Sport Fishing. Book your trip today at murphyslawsportfishing.com. Tin Cup, Mountain Whiskey. Shallow Sport, the Texas legend. Rodan, set it, forget it, catch more fish. And Penn, let the battle begin.
The Power Pole anchor is an awesome tool while out on the water. Over the last 20 years, I would not have caught nearly as many fish without a power pole on the back of my boat. One of the biggest reasons a power pole helps you catch more fish is what happens as soon as you hook a fish. I always have my key fob in my hand while I'm fishing. That way, as soon as I hook up, I can double tap the down button and automatically deploy the anchors. This allows me time to fight the fish, land the fish, take a photo, and release the fish without drifting into the spot and ruin where that fish was holding. I have found that that fish was there for a reason. Whether it was structure, wind, current, or something, it was holding that fish in that general area. Most of the time, I can fire my next cast right into the same spot and catch more fish. Sometimes I like to change the lures, fan cast the area, and really work that spot where I caught the first fish. I then like to pick up the power poles just a bit and glide 20 to 30 feet forward, redeploy the power poles, and really work that area thoroughly. Doing this will increase your catches dramatically, and that's your power pole tip.
Those are a few good tips, actually.
They really were.
Next, you're going to have to use the voice control. Power pull down.
Well, you've got your foot control switches as well. So there's another option for you if you have power poles.
True. Game changer for sure.
Definitely.
All right, in our front runner boats Upper Coast region, Captain Carl Weston is getting us on the fish and away from the wind. So let's listen up. Go for it, Carl.
Hey guys, how you doing? Yeah, this week has, they should call it the wild and windy Upper Coast. Trust me, the winds have definitely picked up. Rain's been kind of scattered at times through the week, but it can be great for some anglers outside of the boat. Just really frustrating for those of us who try to fish in a boat. You know, the winds just might have you sipping the tin cup whiskey earlier than you think. I think I turned my shade fin into a rain fin this week to try to keep dry. You know, the water temps are around 71 degrees in Galveston Bay, steadily rising, little at a time. The jetties, the redfish is on fire out on the jetties this week. It's been the place to fish as far as rigging and bait preferences. Shrimp on a pop and cork is the go-to. Soft plastics in yellow and white are really bringing them in the boat. Always tip your hook with a little fish bites. We've learned that over the last few years. It's really the way to get a second hit. Now, the water is still staying from the rain shower. So oranges, yellows, white will really get their attention in this watercolor that we have right now. Bass Assassin bait on a quarter-ounce jig head are still the most effective weight for tossing at these redfish right now. Over in Sabine Lake, they're reporting a little temperature rise up to 75 degrees. They're also sticking to the outside of the jetties fishing out there. That's where the fish are in the cleaner water. You know, as always, wear your PFD if you're in there, water fishing, sunscreen, the shade fin, keep it out, stay out of that sun. Today I have a picture of Cheryl with a nice redfish and a flatty. And
that'll
so
work.
let's bump over, guys, the trout bite has been steady as well this week. You know, the wind has had people getting out earlier trying to get some fish before the wind got up too high, and the storms. Like we said, the water temps have crept up a little bit in the bays, around those little rivers that are dumping into the bays. The jetties are definitely the place to stick to still for redfish and trout. I would also say along the grassy bank where the water's a little cleaner from the tide coming in. The early morning bite has been the best. Look for the birds and the oil slicks as you always do. Using a finger mullet on a popping cork has been really hot this week for some of the bigger fish. Light color, top water. Your little mirrodine in a light color has been producing very well. A great addition to your trout rig would be a Berkeley power bait. You can toss out the yellow or orange. These are hot colors for this type of water when it's rain and stained. Today I've got a picture of Mike and his daughter, Brianna, slinging some trout at the jetties.
Aw, what a good day.
So let's move offshore where we have not been able to fish much lately. But we're hoping to. We're going to wake up one day, it's going to be hot and no wind, and we'll be right there. So the kingfish bite, as usual, is coming on strong. Starting fish at the 9 Mile rig has had some smaller fish the last few days. Those fish are coming closer to shore as we're getting the grass coming from you guys in Florida. And the wind doesn't really break that up too much right now. So if you're trolling the edge of it, trolling around these rigs, there's bait there. The kingfish are in there. Slow trolling live hardtails has always been my favorite around structure. And as the water gets warmer, these mackerel give you an air show. Large deep divers, in gold and silver spoons, all work very well on kingfish. Don't forget to run a wire leader, guys, in front of your bait, because your bait will be gone quick. These fish have teeth like razors, and it only takes one hit. And if you don't plan to keep these fish to eat, simply dehook them. R&R makes a great dehooker. You can reach down to the swivel above the fish where it's safe, slide down the hook, pop them off, and they'll swim away and there for someone else to catch. I have a photo today of Tosh with a nice kingfish.
Oh,
That is a nice one.
girl.
Heck yeah.
Nice. Good job.
So let's go back to the other fish which we catch in these rough conditions, state water snapper. Let's talk about them again. They're still there. The guys are still catching them on the beach. I don't know what's going on this year, but they've been catching keepers on the beach. I don't think I've ever seen that before here in the Upper Coast, guys. So get out there. Closer into shore, it's not as rough. Sometimes you get that northeast wind. It'll be calm out 4, 5, 6 miles. You set yourself up a snapper rig in that 50-foot range. Right now, I use a 6/0 Eagle Procar hook, about 3 foot of diamond Mamoy, and an 8-ounce egg stinger. It's all you need. Whatever your choice of bait is, like we said, throw a little easy, fish bites easy, shrimp or something, electric chicken, something, jazz it up a little bit on the hook, a little color, and don't forget to set your Rodan trolling motor to your spot, because this will keep you on the fish, and then even the captain can catch some fish now and time again. So we got a picture today of fish bites in action again, killing the red snapper, guys.
That's some good stuff right
Good
there.
action pick.
Excellent action. Well, I tell you what, Carl, that's a great report. And like you say, there's red snapper are there. So now that the season's open, you need to get out there and get them. But inshore, Carl says you got to get out there and chase those redfish. They're still biting at the jetties using fish bites. The Fish and Strips coquina clam flavor seems to be working really good for him. And then offshore, targeting the kingfish around the 9 Mile oil rigs, troll live hardtails, large deep diving lures, or gold and silver spoons around that structure. And like you said, it's, anything small and shiny. Like kingfish are kind of like saltwater raccoons. They like small, shiny objects.
Nice. Never heard that comparison before. It's great. All right, our lower fresh region is slapped full of big old bass, per usual. So let's see where they're hanging out this weekend with Matt Reed. Go for it, Matt.
All right, Brie, let's get this thing kicked off. Mike Bates has sent me a report from Choke Canyon. It says you can still catch fish from 2 to 20 feet right now. Early in the morning, there's a lot of fish shallow. Texas rig, spinnerbaits, chatterbaits, and lipless cranks are the best way to catch those early morning fish. After that, after the morning bite dies, stay with the Texas rig for the most consistent bite. The bass that are holding in the 5 to 10 foot range can also be caught on a medium depth crankbait or a light Carolina rig to add to that Texas rig. The deeper fish in that 10 to 20 foot range, deep diving cranks in shad colors and bluegill colors. Also your Texas rig with a big 10-inch worm and a Carolina rig with 3/4 ounce weight. His numbers have been real good, and there's some great size being mixed in the middle of that. He says you might catch a bunch of 2 and 3 pounders before you hook into a big one, but always be prepared. He throws 20-pound fluorocarbon line so you don't break the big one off when you get the opportunity. Brian Cotter sent a report from the Austin area. Lake Travis is fishing really good. The bigger fish are getting harder to find right now as you get closer to summer. Still catching quite a few fish in that 3 to 5 pound class, with a bunch of smaller ones, which Travis is known for. Moving baits have been real good still, small crankbaits and spinnerbaits. The Jaywalker, top water has also been good around the bluffs. To catch some bigger ones, you want to work any grass cover you can find with a fluke-style bait or a Texas rig worm. That's how he's caught most of his big ones. Like bass stripes, also kicking out fish. Throw spinnerbaits and crankbaits on the outside edge of the grass. Also, you can drag soft plastics there on the edge of that grass to add more fish to your creel as the day goes on. Just starting to see some schooling fish showing up. That summer pattern is about to kick in. You want to throw small top waters and small swim baits around those schoolers. LBJ is fishing well. You want to concentrate on the 5 to 10 foot rock. Throw jigs, shaky heads, and crankbaits. There's been quite a few fish up to that 7-8 pound range caught lately. Greg Boyd, sent me a report from Somerville. Largemouth bass have been fair. Lipless crankbaits and square bills work real well right now around the dam and also Rocky Point. Green pumpkin plastics and dark creature baits are doing best in the brush piles. You want to rig those Texas rigs so you can get them through that brush in that 10 to 15 foot range. Fayette County, a lot of good solid fish along the reeds early in the morning on swim jigs and Texas rig creature baits. By mid-morning, you want to move on out to the dam and main lake drop-offs to catch those fish on a Carolina rig in 15 to 20 foot of water. Green pumpkin's been your best color. My old favorite, my baby down there at Falcon, she's come up about 11 feet. We got some water from Amistad, from the irrigation they pulled from us. This has scattered our fish. Some of them have moved shallow, but most are moving to the deeper rock. There's a shallow spinnerbait bite up in that little bit of shallow cover we have. Definitely my favorite is the deeper rock. Cranks and Texas rigs are your best offering. Even if my numbers are down a little bit, there's always a giant waiting for you, so be ready. Got 2 bass pictures there with Mike Bates and a customer. Both of those are big old Choke Canyon fish.
Oh, nice. I was like, where are they? Where are they? Oh, there they are.
Oh, there they are.
Knew they were coming up.
Tell us a little bit about these white bass and hybrids now.
Lake Somerville, the white bass and hybrids are biting extremely well. There's sporadic schooling activity happening around Welch Park and Rocky Point. The birds will tell you the story where those are. It's kind of like, saltwater fishing when you're looking for trout schooling. Topwater poppers and walking baits are working best. When they're down, get you a chartreuse or a white slab type spoon in that 10 to 17 foot range and load the boat.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's a great report, Matt. I'm going to take your hot spots for the lower fresh region from here. Captain Matt says Fayette County largemouth have been very good. Solid fish along the reeds early in the mornings on swim jigs and Texas rig creature baits. Mid-morning and on, you want to move on out to the dam area and some of those deeper lake drop-offs, the discharges and the road beds with a Carolina rig stick bait or jerk shad in 15 to 25 feet of water. And then green pumpkin with gold flake, watermelon candy, and June bug are still working best. It's interesting. He was talking about the way those birds are circling, just like they do on saltwater fish,
right.
Whether it's tuna, trout, or bass, striped bass, it's all the same.
Look for them birds.
Look for the birds. They know.
Birds. Well, you know what? I was distracted earlier. I was watching Dave over there at the workbench trying to put some new products on. So that's why
it's a nice looking vest, but it's not something I'd wear to the club.
Oh, I think you could wear that crop top vest to the club. All right, the Middle Coast region's coming up, but we've got Dave over there, just crop vest for new products, and we'll be back.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Abu Garcia, Fish to Win. Fenwick, Feel Everything. Diamond Fishing Products, our reputation is on the line. Island Lures, Tournament Tackle. Turn on the bite anytime. Tie on a Miro lure. And Startron, start, run, and store with Startron.
Well, we're at the Taco Marine new Briggs and new products segment, and I'm trying to get this new product. It's actually an old product.
Unboxing.
I'm telling you. It's a
We'll
reveal. Here we go. We almost got it. No,
just leave it in there.
Now the hook's in it.
This is a Paul Brown Maniac mullet.
I like it though because it's
soft.
But it's not too soft.
Right. It's a semi-soft.
It's got a great feel to it.
Right.
And with that treble hook on there, boy, everything that touches that thing's going to get hooked.
Yeah, Maniac mullet. It's 4.5 inches long, weighs 5/8 ounce. It's got a really cool little nose on it. that
if I can get the nose to come out.
Yeah,
it's fighting me the whole way.
It's going to. You got every treble hook in there.
You don't want to try and steal this from the store.
You want to get it out of a trout's mouth.
You'll never get it.
But anyway, it's got a really cool little nose on it. It's like a lip, but it gives it really erratic action.
All right.
It's great for targeting large trout on the flats. Redfish will eat it. Trout will eat it. A flounder will eat it if you get it low enough in the water column. Just use a little twitch. Twitch as you retrieve it, and you're good to go. It's a great little lure.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the other thing about it. It's a nondescript lure.
Yeah.
It could be a shrimp.
Yeah.
It could be a bait fish. It could be a mullet. It could be a perch. It could be a croaker. You don't really know what the thing is, but
something smaller than they are moving.
And they eat it.
That's right.
That's the important part.
That's right.
The Maniac Mullet from Paul Brown.
Yep. You can shop mirrorlure.com, I believe, and get one of those as well.
Cool. What do we got next?
Next, we got the Sea Sucker. This is called the basic cleat, but it's not really basic. It's because I've never met a cleat that I could take anywhere. This what's really cool about these cleats is that if you have a spot on your boat that needs a cleat, and you don't want it there all the time, you can use one of these. It's great for fenders. When you're coming up to eat some dinner at night on a dock you're not familiar with, you can put one of these things anywhere.
This is perfect for somebody that goes different places and doesn't always tie up at the same dock. So he goes to the Keys one weekend, he goes to Crystal River the next. You can put this wherever you need it, because the docks aren't all the same wherever you go. So this
depth is different.
And so this allows you to move wherever you need to. Plus, like you say, you got a spot where you're at Crystal River and you're bumping against the wall a little bit, and it's cement, and you don't want to bump against the cement.
Put a fender there.
Put a fender right there.
Yep, because you got a cleat for it.
That's awesome.
The little 4.5 it'll hold up to 120 pounds. The 6-inch holds 210. It's great just for a quick and precisely positioned cleat or fender. Go to seasucker.com. They're always in the right spot if you've got those.
Boy, I got to take those home with me.
Next, we've got some dredge baits. We got two different ones here. The first ones there you got are the OTS lure. These are made for dredges and teasers and whatnot. They're really thin.
They're very realistic looking.
Yeah, these come in 4 different colors: a natural, the green, a purple, and a pink. And they got a really nice big eye up there in the front so it won't rip out. Really tough, tough material, so they'll last a long time. And they don't put a whole lot of drag on your dredge because they're so thin and skinny. Really cool. They got the little mackerels as well as the skipjack tuna there.
And then what about these, Dave?
These are from Fish Razor as well. These are the 3D dredge tuna. What's really cool about these is they give a 3D silhouette. You're going to see a silhouette no matter which way the fish is looking at it. Up, down, below, or from the top. They store flat. They come in the 10-inch and the 14-inch version. Again, they're really thin and cut well so that they cut through the water really good. They're not heavy, for the silhouette that they provide. Really cool. Fishrazor.com. You can go get your 3D dredge tunas.
It's so much easier than trying to rig 50 mullets and put them on a dredge.
I'm with you there, man. I know. a lot of guys won't pull one unless it's a natural bait.
You look like you had 2 power poles sticking out of the top of this little while ago.
This is really cool. I wish that I'd have come across this thing when we did our wading show a couple of weeks ago here in Texas. David Drinkard was the guy who invented this, and it comes from drinkarandcompany.com. But this is the Texas Best wading vest. It's got a patent pending on it. He's been wading for 40 years, and he decided, hey, I want to try to make something that's going to do some certain things that I want it to do. So he's got these nice little rod holders. He wanted to carry some extra rods, and these do that. But they're really small. If you'll notice, most rod holders are really big.
Too big.
These are really tight so that you can squeeze the rods in there really good so they're not rattling around on your back when you're walking. That was always the worst thing about having rod holders on stuff is if there's any play in there, they're rattling around and it bugs the crap out of you.
What was interesting earlier, though, is when let's say you were bending over to get a fish.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have to worry about your rod falling out and going in the drink on you.
Because these are small enough and they stay right in there.
They hold it nice
and tight. Not only
that,
this thing fits up high on your shoulders. So even if you're up up past your belly. Everything else stays dry. Everything's on your back.
Kind of snaps in and snaps out too.
Yeah, everything's on your back so that you can reach back and get it without it being in your front. It's got like 50 different little loops all over it. You can hang nets and stringers and tools and whatnot. Very adjustable. So you can put it over waders. It's one size fits all. So you can put it over waders if you want to, or if you're out there with just a t-shirt on, you can adjust it appropriately.
Where do you go to find those?
Drinkard and Company, drinkardandco.com.
Fantastic. Awesome job tonight, Dave. Great products. We're going to go to the next region. And
that little vest is great. It even has a tin cup for your tin cup whiskey.
I put that on there.
Of course you did, Dave. Dave's ready. Also, your Vanna White skills, Jim, very on point.
Am I doing it?
You got it. You got it. You got the job. All right, Inshore is the place to be this weekend in the Middle Coast region. So let's see how we're catching those reds and trouts with Captain Bink Grimes. Go for it, Bink.
We've had a bright moon this past week, and that's afforded us a minor bite at sunrise and a better bite around midday, and then another minor around sunset. A lot of our water has been pumped back into the bay this week with southeast winds. It's pushing our speckled trout on the shoreline and resuming our summer pattern. This time of year, if you're not fishing rafts and mullet on the shorelines, you're probably wasting time. We're looking for slicks in the morning and wading through them, fan casts into grass beds and sand pockets with mirror she dogs and she pups. Bay shorelines in San Antonio and Espiritu Santo Bay are still giving up excellent catches of trout. Key in on those slicks and that bait activity and toss the hot chicken and mama's chicken bass assassins. Guy Lynn Smith, he echoed the same report, but he said his best color this week has been the chicken on a chain bass assassins. Wading mid-bay reefs in San Antonio Bay, much like what we do in East Matagorda Bay, it's paid off with bass assassins and Mirror and Little Johns. Drifters are catching limits on the same on reefs on live shrimp under mid-coast popping cork. Around Freeport, bass trout, chocolate, and West Matagorda Bays, trout have been protected on the reefs and best on live shrimp. Most of the time that water's been stained, so that noisy cork has worked better. Drifters in East Matagorda Bay willing to grind, have a chance at least one big fish a day. Those big fish still eat, even when the water is muddy, which it has been this week. You just have to put that bait in front of them. There's a photo. That's a nice 6-pound trout caught and released while drifting East Matagorda Bay. Please take care of all of our trout, and please release more than you take. With high tides, our redfish in Port O'Connor are best along the shorelines and in the back lakes on plum bass, assassin, sea shad, and we're rigging them on a light 1/16-ounce chartreuse jig head. Most of those fishing are about knee-deep water around points, guts, and drop-offs on the edge of the reef. Those wading with live shrimp under popping cork are tossing to the edges of the reef and picking up reds and black drum. There's a lot of action. There's been many undersized catch and release fish, but as long as the tide remains high, those keeper-sized fish will be tight to the grass. And Matagorda guide Michael Roth, he's been saving many of these windy days. He's chasing redfish in the back flues and bows. Spots like Maverick Bow, Hidden Bow, Green Island, and Pilot Flu have all had little clusters of shell along the shoreline, and each area holds clean water, even when that wind has been gusting to 25 knots. He's been tossing a live shrimp on a popping cork, but when the tides get real high, he'll take a cut mullet and he'll soak it. The Freeport, Matagorda, and Port O'Connor jetties are holding redfish this time of year. There's a lot of white shrimp on the beachfront, evident by all the Gulf boats dragging about a half mile off the coast. That'll end May the 15th. Our Gulf shrimp season will close for 60 days. There's still those big shrimp will be on the beach all the way through the summer. It'll open back up July the 15th. Offshore swordfish guide Michael Quebec and Matagorda said nighttime sword action has been exceptional. Patterns have been drifting hilltops and domes with squid and staggering lines along the surface about 300 foot down. Most of those fish have been in the 100 to 200 pound range, about 75 to 80 miles out. It's been a grind out there because it's been so rough in the Gulf of Mexico. You've been getting beat up with those 20 knot, 25 knot winds. Wind kicked back up this week. It's pinned our anglers to the dock. And in Freeport, they've concentrated about 25 foot of water with the rough conditions and working on bull redfish, blacktip sharks, and big gaff top. That's our spring offshore fishing in Texas. It's a lot of wind. When it calms, you have to be ready and gassed up, ready to take advantage. And that's another great week along our Middle Coast. Please take care of our fishery and be kind to other anglers and boaters on the water. And happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there.
You know, Bink, I saw that you put in here, this is classic. This big table shrimp looked really good wrapped in a jalapeno and bacon.
Jalapeno.
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 They are good. They are very, very good.
Bink, how much longer are that shrimp are they gonna be running, do you think?
No, they'll be on the shoreline. They're on the beach. They'll be on the beach when it opens back up July the 15th. Those big, what we call Charlie shrimp, those 6-8 count shrimp, will be right on the beach, and those trout will be right underneath it. And I'm going to throw a MirrOlure top water right behind them and eat them up.
Great tips, great tips. Appreciate it, Bink. I'll take your MirrOlure hot spots from the Middle Coast region from here. Bink says inshore trout are good on San Antonio Bay. They're holding around slicks and mullet, and you want to use some Bass Assassins to get them.
Yeah.
Trout are also good on the reefs and live shrimp in the mid-coast with a mid-coast poppin' cork specific brand. And then offshore, swordfish are good at night while drifting hilltops and domes with squid.
Jalapeno.
Jalapeno.
What? Well, Jim, you did so good. I'm so proud of you.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Rick's going to be proud too. Dave, how do you think you did?
They did awesome.
You did great, right?
Yeah.
I love
Although that Paul Brown whipped his butt.
that
didn't
thing's.
it?
I'm trying.
You can't get that treble hook out of anything.
He was in so much trouble. I was over there like,
killing me. Just killing me. Killing me.
well, happy Mother's Day to all
What
them.
gets me is I told him, hey, why don't you go ahead and pull that out right before it started.
Right as we're coming
Right,
back on.
right, exactly. It's okay, we'll get there.
Thanks,
Happy
Dave.
Mother's
I didn't
Day.
mean to.
Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you get your kiddies out there this weekend with the mamas. And we'll see you
Happy
next
Mother's
week.
Day, Mom.
Make sure to, Happy Mother's Day.
Take mom fishing.
Take mom fishing, exactly.